I have with me Salil Gupte, President of Boeing India. Salil, thank you very much for joining us on BloombergQuint. To begin with, it's been a good year for you. Apache, CHINOOK has been brought in. What do you see going forward for Boeing India?
Right. So Boeing has been honored to be part of the India's forces defense modernization, not just over the past year, but over the past 10 years, right? So Boeing has delivered C-17 transport airplanes, P-8 aircraft here for the Navy, and we've, over the past year, inducted the CHINOOK helicopter in Chandigarh and the APACHE helicopter. And of course, we're working to support all of those in operation as well. So first and foremost, that's what's on the radar for us, is making sure that those aircraft operate flawlessly in support of the Indian forces. But then, of course, we're also looking at further opportunities for additional P-8s and additional Apaches for the Army. The last 17 of 22 already delivered were for the Air Force.
I'm told the Army also needs some 6 Apache helicopters. Where are we on that?
So Boeing has completed our negotiations with the Army on those, and so at this point it's just going through the MOD process, and we look forward to the completion of that process and signing that deal when the ministry is ready.
The theme of this expo has been digital transformation. We used to have defense hardware has been sold. Now you have software getting integrated to it, AI, machine learning, all those, contemporary technologies getting integrated into military hardwares. Do you think going forward, you see a talent pool in India to contribute to that kind of technologies?
Absolutely. So Boeing is investing hugely in India, partly for that reason, right? So we have, between Bangalore and Chennai engineering centers, 3,500 people, right, that are focused on aerospace engineering, aftermarket engineering, technical publications, and exactly what you talked about, data analytics and software related to that. We have teams that are working on what we call digital aviation, which is leveraging the power of data and big data collection and algorithms to turn that data into insight and into systems that make for more efficient airplanes and more optimized operations of airplanes, right? And these are technologies that we've developed not just on the military side of our business, but also on the civil side of our business that we are bringing to bear on the defense side. And so that, I think, uniquely positions Boeing to not just offer these products and software and technologies to the Indian Defense Forces, but to also make many of them right here in India.
The government has been talking about changes to the offset program. Earlier it was only limited to hardware being made in India or being exported to the OEM. Do you think software and AI related technologies can be part of the offset program going forward, if they are going to be the key distinguishing factor between make or break in a security situation?
Certainly broadening the envelope of that sort of industrial participation is an opportunity, and we'll have to see what the next DPP looks like in terms of how many of those opportunities are available to us as OEMs. But what I can say on that point is this, that the Ministry of Defense has been remarkably cooperative, open, and transparent in partnering with industry to get feedback on exactly those types of suggestions as they look to come up with the next draft of the DPP. So we're very grateful for the ministry for bringing industry in to bring forward ideas just like that one.
You're also participating in the strategic partnership. I think F-18 Hornet, that's what you showcase here. Where are we on that? Because that has been a little slow to take off. We've seen the SP program for submarines with 2 of the vendors been shortlisted, but as far as medium multi-role aircraft is concerned, we haven't seen much of a play going.
Well, we're working closely as it relates to that strategic partnership in a few areas, working closely with the Air Force and the Navy as to their requirements for the FA-18 Super Hornet, the Block 3, right, which has some of the latest technologies as it relates to stealth, data link, has the best life cycle cost of any fighter, in the U.S. forces. So it makes it a really good fit for India, whether you're talking about the Navy or the Air Force. So we're working closely on through the process on that. But as it relates specifically to the partnership end of that, we are working with Mahindra and HAL on finalizing our go-forward joint venture to satisfy the strategic partnership element of the fighter procurement process. And we are, at this moment, the only public-private partnership that would come in for that strategic partnership opportunity.
What is the timeline do you see for this program to come in, at least till the time the shortlisting happens? Where are we on the entire process as far as the entire MOD is concerned?
Well, we hope to see an expression of interest perhaps coming out in the next year, but at this point, we don't have a view on timing after that. Of course, the ministry and the forces will be in the lead on that.
So what happens to the partnership in the interim? We are going to produce it for export purposes, or how will you take this forward, especially your partnership with Mahindra or HAL?
Well, so there's a few things. First of all, Boeing, Mahindra, and HAL are working on putting together the construct, right, for the partnership that will hopefully build Super Hornets here in India. So that there's still some work to do on that, as there is for many of the other competitors in the fighter campaign. So we'll be working that quite hard. But in the meantime, there's some other opportunities like gun bay doors and other areas where we are potentially partnered with those potential JV partners. And we are seeking to build a track record of partnership so that when we form our strategic partnership, we will be, we'll be able to move out.
Give me a sense of your supply chain, because over the last 5 years it has increased a lot. But when you look at it, say 5 years down the line, do you see a large portion of the supply chain coming in from the Indian industry for your global programs as well?
So it's a extremely important part of our growth story in India, the supply chain element. So over the last several years, we have quadrupled our supply chain, our procurement from India, and partnered with over 200 suppliers. So at the moment, it stands at over $1 billion that is procured from India, of components, of aerostructures, of complex composites, for airplanes ranging from CHINOOK aircraft to the Apache to the 787. The floor beams of a 787, when you sit on it, those are proudly made in Nagpur. And, those key components are going to continue to be an element of a growth story for Boeing in India as we go well beyond $1 billion in the years to come. So we're absolutely looking to grow not only the number and the amount of spend, but also the quantum of suppliers that we spend that with.
What about setting up your own manufacturing facility in India, maybe for the Asian region? Because if you look at from a civilian point of view, the requirement of aircraft is going to be so huge over the next 5 to 10 years that there's a demand, such a backlog which is going on. Have you ever considered making India your hub for the Asian region?
Well, at the moment, the only place that we do final assembly of aircraft is in the United States, right? However, we do continually look at, increasing the scope of the manufacturing that we do in countries that deliver high quality like India, right? And a good example of that is our Apache fuselage, right? So while the final assembly of the Apache fuselage of the Apache helicopter may take place in Arizona in the United States, the fuselage, the body of the helicopter, most of what you see when you look at it, is proudly made in India, in Hyderabad. And that is a facility that we have set up with the Tatas to make fuselages, as the Prime Minister noted in his inaugural comments, not just for India, but also for the world, right? And we would look to put other types of work in there as well, potentially civil work in the future. So those are the types of opportunities that we want to take advantage of to continue to grow our manufacturing into larger and higher complexity areas in India and go up that value chain.
and you see a more potential for that kind of projects and works coming the Indian way. But when will you see a full-fledged OEM being established in the country, which is making end-to-end with a good supply chain coming in from within the country?
Well, I know. So if the question is when do we see a OEM sort of being set up in India, an indigenous OEM? Again, this was part of the Prime Minister's comments, right? We know this is a key, and also Raksha Mantri's comments. We know this is a key area of focus, for India, is to build its indigenous capability and eventually, have military equipment that is, dreamed, that is designed, that is built, and that is supported here in India and from India. And so I think there's a perspective out there that, some of the foreign OEMs like Boeing, right, even those of us who've started Indian companies like Boeing Defense India here in India, have some concerns about that. And I can assure you that we don't. Because what I can assure you is there will be opportunities for us to partner with those future OEMs as well, to make, again, not just for India, but to make for the world. So as it relates to our collaboration with Indian indigenous industry, as in the journey towards that future when there are Indian OEMs that are making India for India, beyond obviously HAL, we look forward to that day.
But is there any policy issues with respect to setting up a completely integrated OEM for a company like Boeing in India? Or is it just a policy decision from US that needs to come in?
I mean, there's lots of, policy and trade control, particulars that need to be gone through. So, those types of, that type of a question is probably best, asked to the US State Department, Defense Department, and the Indian Defense Department.
Salil, thank you very much for talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.